everyone. Hi. Happy Halloween. I'm very excited to see you. So, this time around, you may or may not be aware that, well, first, it's Halloween, and also we're reading a paper that I'm kind of excited about. Oh, this seems like it's going to be a very silly paper, honestly, so I'm pretty pumped to start reading it. Also, I'm feeling a little spooky today as it is Halloween and I am a Mothman, so please excuse the dark shadows over my face. This is simply what naturally happens to my species on this certain day of the year. I am not angry about anything. In fact, I am absolutely delighted. Today, we are reading a paper. And that paper, of course, we're reading a paper. That's what we do here. We're reading a paper called The Effective Images of Michelle Obama's Face on Trick-or-Treaters' Dietary Choices, a randomized control trial. And I am very excited to start reading this. I didn't really look into it too much. I feel like I might have heard about it when it came out. This was published in January of 2018. So I wonder, do you think that they published it that fast? Like, was this the Halloween of 2017 and they wrote it, submitted it, and got reviews back and did revisions and published it within that short a time? Because that would be pretty impressive. I don't know if it says... Oh, no, wait, they did this over multiple Halloweens. This is a multi-year thing, too. It looks like it's only been cited 2 times, but it's been viewed and shared a lot. I guess because this seems... I'm wondering who cited it. I am very curious. Let's look at that first before we really get into it. Does it say? Does it say who cited it? I want to find out. The effect of image... No, that's the name of the paper. Who cited it? Tell me your stories. Oh well, we can figure that out later. That's not the point right now. The point right now is this looks like a fun paper. So earlier today I was actually preparing a lecture of like social psychology things that were related to Halloween, and I didn't find this paper. But then I looked again, and now I have found the paper. And I was instantly enamored by the setting. Look, they conducted this study on an economic professor's front porch in New Haven, Connecticut. I think that is hilarious. I don't know why, but something like this just sparks much joy. So let's look. Let's see what we've got. So the paper, the abstract. So to give you a bit of cultural context at the time, of course, this was started during the Obama presidency, I'm assuming. It says it was collected over the space of 3 years. The last Halloween they could have possibly collected this for publication in January 2018 was 2017. So that was 2017, 2016, 2015. So this started in 2015, which was the last year of Barack Obama's presidency, if I remember correctly. And during his presidency, the First Lady, Michelle Obama, his wife, was making a huge effort to try and get children to have more healthy diets. So she was like big push for like a reform in the kind of food that were available in school cafeterias and all that kind of stuff. And so they seem to have decided that just seeing Michelle Obama's face might encourage children to make a healthier food choice. So that's what I've gathered so far, and I have not read the abstract. I do not know what they're gonna find, but I think it should be fun to get into it. So let's see. Okay, participants. We have 1,223 trick-or-treaters. That's a pretty decent sample size, I would say, in New Haven over 3 years. So this is a pretty specific sample. It's specifically people who are trick-or-treating, which I guess makes sense because that's kind of the population they want to study. But it's at one particular person's porch in New Haven, Connecticut. I'm sorry, this still cracks me up. I love it. I love this so much. On average, 8.5 years old. I wonder, did they ask the kids, do you think, how old they were? Did they ask the parents? Were they estimating this based on how... I guess we might have to read to find out. Maybe they'll tell us. And 53% of them were male. I wonder if they asked for the kid's gender or if they were just like coding it based on visual appearance. I'm guessing coding it based on among children whose gender was identifiable. Yeah, so it's probably the researcher coding this rather than asking the children themselves for their genders. Eligibility, trick-or-treaters over the age of 3 that approached the house. I'm sorry, I don't know why, but this is cracking me up so much. I cannot explain it, but it just sparks delight. Okay. Intervention, random assignment to the Michelle Obama side of the porch, or the comparison side of the porch. Oh, I would love to talk to these researchers one day, just on... I love when studies are like a little creative, and this feels very creative. This feels like the kind of silly thing that I would love to do, but would just be so logistically complicated that I don't know if I'd get around to doing it. Maybe I should put that on like my bucket list or something. Do a study that is like this kind of silly, this brand of silly. All right, so our main outcome measure is selection of fruit over candy. So it sounds like this trick-or-treaters went up to the porch and the Michelle Obama side of the porch. I know! Isn't that delightful? Isn't that amazing? I can't even. I can't even. It's so funny to me. Oh, okay. So I think they had both fruit and candy available, and they wanted to see which ones the kids took. Methods. Difference in means estimates. Ooh, interesting. I'll have to check how they did that, because I know some difference scores are kind of problematic, but I don't think that's the kind of problem that they would have in this particular study. So results, we estimate that... Estimate? What do they mean estimating? Are they talking about statistics? Are they just being extra conservative about how they describe their results? We estimate that viewing a photograph of Michelle Obama's face relative to control conditions caused children to be 19% more likely to choose fruit over candy. Oh no, it's a picture, it's a picture. What if they actually got Michelle Obama to participate in this? Oh, that would be absolutely incredible. Oh my gosh, can you imagine? Why did they... Yeah, they had a picture of her face on that side of the porch. At least, look, we'll get to the methods and we can get more details, but that seems to be the case. So conclusions. Michelle Obama's initiative to reduce childhood obesity has influenced children's dietary preferences. Whether this influence extends beyond Halloween trick-or-treating in New Haven, Connecticut, on the porch of an economics professor requires further research. That is the single best acknowledgement of the limitations of a bias sample that I have ever read. Oh my gosh, I love this. I need to see if this author's written any other papers after this, because if this writing style extends to the other papers, I need to read all of them. I don't think I've ever laughed this hard when reading an academic paper. That is delightful. Actually, there might have been one or two. But this is pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. Okay. So there's our figure. This is a figure. We'll get there. There's our citation. There were 3 authors. I do wonder what the other authors were doing on this paper. I wonder, do they say? I don't know if Plus One typically has like... Actually, when I submitted to Plus One, they did have me specify what each of the authors did, but I submitted a solo author paper, so it was kind of moot. But this was published a while ago, so I wonder... This was 6 years ago, so I wonder if they still had their authors do that, and if they're still going to report it, because I'm kind of curious. And I'm guessing the first author is the economics professor. Oh, but this author appears to be the one who you're supposed to ask questions about the study to. Oh, here! Roles! Conceptualization, data curation, formal analysis, methodology, writing, original... Okay, so this person is the one who's doing this writing that is cracking me up. So I need to check out Dr. Aronow's writing. Department of Political Science and Biostatistics. So this guy might not be the economist who was measuring trick-or-treaters on his front porch and had a Michelle Obama side of the porch. Dean Karlan. Conceptualization, data... methodology, writing, and editing. Department of Finance. Oh, no, but this guy's in Evanston at Kellogg. Is Aronow in Connecticut? Yeah, this guy's in Connecticut. And Lauren Pinson. They all seem to have and this person is political science, so I guess it must have been Aronow who's the econ. Isn't it a cool last name? You could use that for like some sort of fictional character or something. Anyway, there. If I didn't already have a last name, dang, I would take that last name. I'd be like, hey, Dr. Aronow, I'm your VTuber child now. Anyway, okay, let's get back to the paper. All right, here we go. Here, introduction. Now let's get into this. Obesity remains prevalent among the youth in the United States and internationally based on an analysis of the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey from 1999 to 2014. I've actually looked at this survey. They make a lot of their data publicly available. You can just go and download it if you want to, which is kind of neat. I actually did that for a collab with Phi when I was looking for data to try and replicate the stuff in the paper that we read. That's over on his channel. Anyway, researchers show an estimated 19% increase in the prevalence of class 1 obesity or low-risk obesity, BMI 30 to 34.9, in the US between 1994 and 2014. Scholars and policymakers have performed a variety of interventions aiming to reduce childhood obesity, yada yada. Effectiveness varies. Meta-analyses suggest school-based interventions may reduce the prevalence of overweight children in short term. So that's the kind of stuff that Michelle Obama was trying to do. And, where was I? I lost track. This is why I always like clicking on the words so that I don't lose track of where I am. And exercise. Compulsory aerobic physical exercise is necessary for efficacy on at least one measure of adiposity. Adiposity, I feel like that was a term I actually first encountered when I was doing that paper with Phi. And I think it just means... Yeah, it's basically... I mean, I'm sure any biologist like Phi is like screaming at me right now, but that I'm oversimplifying something. Well, Phi wouldn't scream at me, but you know, like, I'm sure I'm oversimplifying this, but adiposity does seem to be at least somewhat a synonym for obesity. So I am going to oversimplify and I'm just going to assume that. And if anyone wants to hunt me down later and tell me I was wrong, I am open to that. You are more than welcome to do so, and I'm happy to be corrected. Oh, I'm reading the AI overview. No, I refuse to rely on the AI overview. Let's go to Science Direct. Oh, I hate cookies. Adiposity-based a new diagnostic term for obesity that identifies as chronic disease scientifically and less stigmatized for Okay, so it's basically... I was right. It is basically obesity. They're just trying to get a less stigmatized term for it. Okay, cool. All right. We learned something new today. In order to counteract the international epidemic of childhood obesity, scholars must rigorously investigate the effects of relevant policies and initiatives. Yeah. So that's why we're doing this. We're doing this because we need to learn about this to combat this epidemic. To date, the largest initiatives aimed at adipose? Ooh, I'll have to check that out. I've never heard of it as an adjective. Or maybe, like, I've seen it, but, like, it hasn't occurred to me. Anyway, to date, the largest initiatives aimed at reducing childhood obesity have rarely been subject to experimental evaluation. During her tenure as the First Lady of the United States, Michelle Obama has spearheaded one of the largest public health initiatives focused on childhood obesity. In 2010, Obama unveiled her Let's Move initiative aimed at fostering a healthy lifestyle and reducing childhood obesity. I remember this. I remember this happening, if that shows my age, but I remember a lot of talk about this, and there was like some controversy about it and like all this stuff. And anyway, as the public face of the campaign, they keep like a lot of their, I think, assumptions in this hypothesis is saying she's the public face, and obviously I was not in that level of schooling when this campaign was ongoing. I was well past that, and I didn't know anybody in, say, elementary school while this campaign was going on, but I do wonder how many elementary school students would recognize her face. Like, she was the public face of the campaign to the media and stuff, but, like, were kids actually associating her face with this campaign is what I would love to know. Because the whole thesis of this paper kind of rests on that assumption, doesn't it? Okay. Obama urged healthy eating and exercise in a variety of classic and social media venues accessible to minors and their parents, so maybe they would, including appearances. Oh, she was on Sesame Street! So maybe they, depending on the age of the kids and whether they are watching it, maybe kids would recognize her. And Oprah, and posts of online videos. With the campaign gained publicity, an experimental evaluation of the effects of the entire campaign would not be possible due to the initiative being rolled out across the US through mass media. Yeah, so it's experimental, everybody's seen it, so there's essentially no control group. I mean, running an experiment on that scale would be impossible, but you can't even do a quasi-experiment because presumably almost everybody's been exposed, so we can't establish any causation just from the campaign alone. However, we have experimentally assessed the micro-foundations of Less Move in order to evaluate whether public health altered dietary decision-making when children are exposed to an image of a figurehead regularly associated with the public health campaign's message, and this is where the Michelle Obama side of the porch comes in. I'm sorry, it's delightful to me. The Michelle Obama side of the porch. Okay, the subconscious reminder may reinforce the message. So essentially, when you see her face, it primes you to, or like it brings memories of all these messages that you've seen to choose healthy food over junk food, and therefore, if you see her face, you should be more likely to choose the healthy food over the junk food, seems to be the logic. To engage in this investigation over 3 years, they did this for 3 years, we ran randomized control trials. I'm also really curious to see how they did the randomization. Like, did they have a Excel sheet where they did a random number generator? Did they flip a coin because there's only 2 conditions? Like, I don't know. This delights me. Anyway, randomized control trials during the evenings of Halloween when trick-or-treating was taking place. Prior experiments provide precedents for experimentally evaluating trick-or-treaters' decision-making. Next year. Next year. We have resources for next year. Do you really want to disappoint Michelle by choosing the junk food? Exactly. That seems to be what they were asking. Oh, no, welcome. Did the other side of the porch have a different... No, well, actually, I don't know yet. We don't know what the other side of the porch had yet, so we're going to have to keep reading to find out. And we're almost at the methods section. I don't think they said. Let's see. Do they? Yeah, all we've read so far just says the Michelle Obama side of the porch or the comparison side of the porch. So I'm not sure if they had somebody else's picture on the other side of the porch or no picture or what. And I'm very excited to find out. I do think it's funny. Imagine the trick-or-treaters, like they're walking up to this house, and this is 3 years in a row. This house must have gained some sort of reputation as, like, among parents as the Michelle Obama house, because for some reason they always have a picture of Michelle Obama up on Halloween. I'm sorry, this is still cracking me up so much. Okay. All right, here are methods. All our questions will be answered, hopefully, maybe. We'll find out. Attention-enhancing technique to understand has and shifting, not merely attitudes, but actual choices behaviors children make, which is great, because we know in psychology, attitudes and intentions are not necessarily all that correlated with behavior. I think the average correlation between your attitude towards an activity and actually engaging in that activity is only about 0.2. It's a pretty weak correlation. So there's this big push that we should be measuring more behavior, and I'm really excited that this paper's doing that. If the kids didn't associate with healthy food at first, they probably would after 3 years of this. Exactly, like if they're repeatedly getting exposure to her on the porch at a rare house that has a choice of fruit, they might start, like, just participating in the study might get them to associate her with healthy food. Michelle Obama sitting on one shoulder and Guy Fieri on the other shoulder telling me what food to eat. Yeah. I was trying to think of somebody specifically associated with candy, and all I can think of is, like, Willy Wonka. I can't think of, like, any real-life figure that's specifically associated with candy. There's Tumblr's Chocolate Man. What's his name? Chocolate guy. Here he is. Amaury Guichon. This guy. I don't know if children would recognize him, but oh my gosh, you need to see his video. He's got a Netflix show too. He makes freaking incredible, like, oh my gosh. Can we find images of the stuff he made? Yeah, like, these things are, like, entirely edible. They're entirely chocolate. It is absolutely freaking what? Count Chocula. Yeah, Count Chocula would work too. Oh my gosh. Anyway, okay. If he's on TikTok, the kids will know him. Yeah. This is true. Though this was done from 2015 through 2017. So I don't think, when did TikTok become popular? I'm pretty sure TikTok didn't become popular until like 2019 or so. Like, when did it really catch on? So they might not have really been on TikTok at that point. Hello, Mr. Kibby. Okay. Anyway, we ran the, oh no, wait, it started in 2012, 2014, and 2015. So they started all the way back in 2012, and then they took a few gap years in there. Oh, interesting. Anyway, following versions of experiment during trick-or-treating in 2012, where they had 165 trick-or-treaters at this one house, which is pretty impressive. On average, 7.8 years old and 58% male. 2014, holy cow, a single house in 2014 got 422 trick-or-treaters. How much candy do you have to buy? Oh my god, okay. 422 trick-or-treaters on average, 8.5 years old, 56% male, and 2015, 636 trick-or-treaters! 636 trick-or-treaters at a single house! Where do they live? Where do they live? I mean, I know New Haven, Connecticut, yeah, but they, oh my gosh, this must be a highly population-dense, young family-friendly neighborhood. Oh my goodness. It's like, I don't know what a normal number of trick-or-treaters is, but I feel like if I had to guess, like 50 to 100 in like a decent suburban area with a lot of young families feels like what I would expect. I could be completely wrong. Like, I don't live in a place where people trick-or-treat. That's not a thing that I have to worry about, so... Anyway, oh, by the way, Mr. Kibby is currently chewing on my second monitor, and he might decide to make an appearance soon, so we shall see. So apologies if that happens. Anyway, okay. Randomly assigned to one of two sides of the porch. In 2012, random assignment was done by drawing pieces of paper from a... So the random assignment trick changed. Yeah, everyone gets 4 loose Skittles. I'd say we had 100. Oh, and I think my grad school advisor does she has a pretty busy neighborhood. I think she says like at least pre-COVID, she would get like 150 trick-or-treaters, and they were considered a pretty active neighborhood. So like 636 is wild to me, like still. Anyway, okay. So 2012, it was truly random. They decided which one it was by drawing pieces of paper from a brown bag. And I'm guessing they put the paper back in, so it was probably random with replacement, I'm guessing. Hello, Mr. Kibby. Hi. Do you want to hear about how in 2014 and 2014, it wasn't actually random assignment? It wasn't random assignment, Mr. Kibby. What they had people line up. They had the kids line up and the speed at which each side completed the last participant. So whichever one had the most space was the place they went first. This happens to some of your colleagues. Oh, that's terrifying. Hopefully you are safer. Though I love giving trick-or-treaters candy because one, it makes them so happy, and I just love seeing the costumes. I really like seeing the costumes. It makes me happy. And like, if you can recognize the kids who are cosplaying, if you can recognize what they're from, they will lose it. They are so happy. Makes me so happy. Live in neighborhoods where kids get busted. Yeah, my advisor also lives in a neighborhood where kids get busted. Michelle Obama were looking at him, he wouldn't eat the monitor. Is a monitor healthy food or junk food? I think it's junk food. I don't think a monitor has any nutritional value for a cat. Get off my keyboard! No, Kibby. Ah! Okay, we're safe. I love you, Mr. Kibby. I'll be with you soon. We've had Hatsune Mikus before. That's delightful. The last year I was able to watch, there were a lot of Demon Slayer kids. A lot of kids doing Demon Slayer. Monitor is junk full of microplastics. True. But so am I. Okay, anyway. And macroplastics. Over 1,000. Oh my gosh. That's terrifying. That's terrifying. How do you even buy enough candy for that? I'm scared. I'm frankly terrified. Okay, right, anyway. So the second time was basically just, they let kids run up whenever. Oh, Elfin, my cat skipped ahead. The little mischief man, he skipped ahead. He stepped on the space bar and scrolled down for me. He's like, get this over with. Get this over with. I want to rip your ribcage to shreds with my snuggles. Okay. So 2015 was just pseudo-random process being based on which order the kids were lined up in and which side of the porch was free. So I wouldn't necessarily call that random, but it's probably not biased in a way that actually affects things. One family per year, that's a whole other type of problem for candy shopping, isn't it? Oh, yeah, that would be a problem. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get 0 families per year because I live in an apartment building. You don't really get families trick-or-treating in apartment buildings. That's not really a thing that happens, which kind of makes me sad because I would love to hand out candy, but that's not really how it works. Do you have Spirit Halloween Costco guy costumes yet? That's a good question. There should be ones. Okay, right, okay. So where was I? I keep getting distracted. No individual identifying information was collected, so this is an anonymous thing, and informed consent was neither required by the IRB nor secured. Okay, so I guess the IRB must have considered this non-human subjects research or something? Maybe they considered it... I don't know, that's interesting. I know some IRBs are more lenient, others are more strict. I guess the one at Yale, at least during this time, was more lenient. The one at my university would never let you get away with this without, like, they would never waive consent for basically anything. Like Costco pallets of candy. Oh my gosh. All right. Information on the IRB protocol and experiment was available to any children or parents who asked for such information, fewer than 10 each year. But did you inform them that such information was available is what I'm curious about. Like, did these 10 families ask because they were given the option to ask? Or were they also people who worked at Yale and were aware such things existed and that's why they asked? I have so many questions that are completely unrelated to the validity of the study. I just want to know. I want to know. Okay, right. The inclusion criteria was determined merely by individuals that approached the house on Halloween. Children who did not want to wait in line, perhaps due to an objective of maximizing their candy per hour productivity rate. I love this writer. I love this guy's writing. I am going to read all of his papers. Did not stop at the household upon sight of line at the porch. Understandable. The exclusion criteria was subjectively determined based on perceived age of the child and their ability to follow instructions to go to one of the tables at the porch. Understood. Upon exclusion, the administrator said trick or treat and handed them candy, at which point the child left the porch. Oh my gosh, this sparks so much joy. I haven't had this much fun reading an article in a long time. On one side of the porch, denoted Obama, had a large photo of Michelle Obama in front of the children. Oh, so they did have a photo on the other side of the porch. The other side, denoted comparison, had a photo of Ann Romney, so it's another political figure. A photo of Hillary Clinton, or no photo. So depending on the year, and depending on... I don't know what... Why did it vary in 2014 and 2015? I'm curious. For the disaggregation, okay, I'll have to check that out. Other posters, so that makes sense. I was thinking that you would need another prominent woman in politics to be on the other side to have a proper control photo. That makes a lot, who's not associated with, like trying to promote healthy eating. That makes sense. Okay. Where were we? In 2014, we primed the trick-or-treater by pointing to the photo and asking if they knew how it was. So they're making sure that their manipulation is noticed, which is a very important thing. I have run studies with manipulations where, like, it was like a picture or an object in the room, and like most of my participants did not notice it at all, and I had to throw out a bunch of data. So it's good that at least that, like, in 2014 they're making it so the children look at the photo. In 2015, trick-or-treaters were individually randomly assigned using a pre-coded Excel spreadsheet. Okay, I was kind of expecting Excel would come into the randomization at some point, to receive or not receive the additional priming. So they were basically testing, does it matter whether we intentionally pointed them at the picture or not? Which I think is an interesting thing, because, like, does just seeing the image, like, out of the corner of your eye and not really registering it, because you're so zeroed in on the candy, which I imagine these kids were, did that cause the effect? Or did you have to, like, really have your attention super focused on this image. Okay, that's interesting. We pool our analysis irrespective of this additional source of variation. I wonder if there's some supplemental material, something where they looked at that. Like, was there a difference in their results based on this or not? I think they had a binary outcome, which does make things a little harder. They're going to have to go all logistic with it because it's either they took the fruit or the candy. So binary, which means there's less variability in your dependent variable and you'd need more statistical power. But they have a pretty darn good sample size, I'm not going to lie. Anyway, prior to being led to a side of the porch, children would be queued at the stairs leading up to the porch. They lined up before the house, and they could only go on the porch after they'd been randomly assigned to a condition. Some children could likely see each side of the porch, although many undoubtedly did not due to the pathway blocking chairs, chaos, and darkness. Very technical term. Oh my gosh, this delights me. This delights me. I need to hunt this guy down and shake his hand. I really... Oh, this is a well-written academic paper. This is what I'm going to strive for in the future, to write something. But I think the material helps a lot as well. Anyway, both sides of the porch, children were asked their age and whether they'd prefer to receive fruit, a box of raisins, or candy, a more typical packaged piece of name brand chocolate such as Snickers or Milky Ways. Okay, so the age wasn't just them guessing. They asked the children their age, and they're kind of relying on the child to be honest, but you never know. Each child was given the option that they requested. So they asked, do you want fruit or do you want candy? The child would answer, they'd give them that thing. We recorded each child's reported age, gender, when identifiable. I love this when identifiable. But yeah, so they are the ones coding gender. The researcher is guessing the child's gender. The child is not saying their gender themselves. And choice of fruit or candy. I'm assuming the when identifiable are like the kids who are like in full-on like Spider-Man costume with the mask and everything. I don't know, that it delights me. Anyway, the experimental setup allows us to measure what proportion of children chose fruit instead of candy when in the presence of an image of Michelle Obama's face, as well as the proportion who chose fruit instead of candy when not in the presence of Michelle Obama's face, when in the presence of the face of Hillary Clinton or Ann Romney or nothing. I'm so curious. I hope they explain why they had both of these things in those 2 years. Like, did one of the photos get torn down? Did the wind blow it down? Did they take it down halfway through the night just to see what would happen? Or did they put it up later in the night? But that would make sense if it was just 1 year where this happened. But 2 years, it would have occurred to them the year before. Or maybe they forgot to do the other one because they were so focused on the Michelle Obama photo because that was their main... I don't know. I really want to just like email this person and be like, can we set up a Zoom call? I have so many questions that are completely unrelated to any important like validity of your study. I just really want to know. Just for kicks and giggles. Okay. The experiment was conducted in the East Rock neighborhood of New Haven, Connecticut. Apparently that seems like a great neighborhood to trick or treat. I'm very curious. I'm gonna have to look this place up later and check out its population and stuff because I'm still blown away by those trick-or-treating numbers. The East Rock neighborhood is 1 mile from Yale, contains many single-family homes, owned by Yale faculty. That's probably why people asked about the IRB, because they knew that that thing doesn't exist, because they were part of the faculty. As well as some multifamily homes in which many graduate students live. There are also low-income neighborhoods within a mile of this neighborhood. Furthermore, due to high level of activity during Halloween, many families drive from further away in order to trick-or-treat in this neighborhood. That makes sense. Yeah. That the same thing happens in my advisor's neighborhood, and I think one of you were saying that that happens in your neighborhood as well. Yeah, that I was never aware that that was a thing that happened, but I think it makes a lot of sense. Anyway, from an earlier study, this is different people. These are different. Are these different authors? Jameson, Karlan. And the authors here were... Oh no, Karlan. Karlan seems to be the common denominator, which is interesting because wasn't Karlan the one person who doesn't live in that neighborhood? Maybe Karlan... You know what? I wonder if Karlan was a graduate student there, or like a faculty member there, and then between running these studies and the publication of the studies, Karlan moved and got a job at Kellogg. I wonder if that's what happened. Oh, and I probably just lost my place. Okay. But yeah, I'll have to check out this study as well. That seems like fun. Okay. We know that the population, he gets bussed in to go trick or treat. He gets bussed all the way from Illinois to Connecticut, or just to probably too old to go trick-or-treating. I have never heard of somebody who's young enough to go trick-or-treating and not get weird looks, and old enough to publish a to be an author on a peer-reviewed paper. But if such a person exists, I would love to meet them. I want to go trick-or-treating. I think it's so unfair that adults are like, it's socially weird for adults to go trick-or-treating. I would love to go trick-or-treating. I've helped hand out candy in the past where like 1 or 2 adults did trick-or-treat, and I totally gave them the candy. I think they deserve it. I think everybody should be able to get candy from trick-or-treating. I think it's fun. It's a community-building activity, in my humble opinion. Assuming that supply can meet demand, you know? I mean, I think children should get the priority, but if you have enough candy, yeah. I give it to anyone. Anyway, where were we? Okay. From an earlier study, we know that the population that trick-or-treats in this neighborhood is heavily liberal politically, with about 79% of children informally voting for Obama over McCain in 2008, and 82% for Obama over Romney in 2012. Interesting. I do think in that case it makes sense to have Hillary, because I was wondering earlier, would they even recognize Ann Romney? I have no idea what Ann Romney looks like. I wonder if I would have recognized her in 2012, but yes, I agree that the parents deserve candy too. Or else they might be like my parents and start stealing candy from their kids' stashes. We must prevent the theft by giving the parents their fair share of candy. Oh, man. But yeah, would they even have recognized Ann Romney? I can see them recognizing Hillary Clinton. But anyway, okay, where were we? All right. For analysis, we use difference in means estimates for each year. We had missing outcome data on one 12-year-old female participant in 2012. This participant is dropped from our analysis. I wonder why it was missing, but they have all this other information. Maybe there was something weird. Our findings are substantially unchanged by imputing either a fruit or candy outcome for that participant. Makes sense. They have a big enough sample size that one single participant isn't going to change their results all that much. What I'm really... I don't actually really know what difference... Geez, so many horns outside. I don't know what difference in means estimates is. Is that just a difference score? I would have thought that this would have been like some sort of logistic model or a chi-square or something. Is this some sort of like non-parametric thing? I'm not good at non-parametric things. I might not be very useful for the statistics on this paper. You know what? I bet it's because economists. They did say this is economist front porch, and if an economist analyzed the data, the way that economists analyze data is it feels very different from how psychologists analyze data and think about data, and that could be why I'm at a loss here, even though this is listed in the psychology category on +1. Economists. Okay, where were we? For all estimates, we form wild-type confidence intervals using a normal approximation-based estimation using heteroscedasty, robust standard errors as calculated in R. All right, so they're analyzing it in R. Love to hear it. Candy theft is a serious crime. You know, I found a paper earlier today on candy theft specifically. It wasn't parents stealing candy from children. It was a really old paper from like, was it 1976 by Ed Diener and co. And it was looking at factors that make trick-or-treaters more or less likely to steal candy and money, as in taking more candy than they're allowed to, or than the house says they're allowed to, or taking more money than the house says they're allowed to. Because, you know, back in the day, apparently some people still do this. There's only one person who did it when I was a kid trick-or-treating, but one of the students in my class today said that he knew one person who did it, but most people didn't. You know, like some houses would, and I think maybe still do, hand out loose change on Halloween instead of candy. So yeah, they looked at like candy and money theft, so essentially taking more candy or money than they were supposed to in trick-or-treaters. And I was thinking of reading that for tonight, and then I realized I don't know if it's open access, so I went to +1, but that would be an interesting... I would love to talk about that study more. It seemed interesting. I didn't get a chance to read the full thing. I only read the abstract, but there are literal studies on Halloween candy theft, which I think is great. Okay. As shown in figure 1, we estimate that 28.1%, and here's their confidence interval, of participants. Kid at work today said they went to a house that a guy who gave out $2 bills. That's delightful. I somehow received a $2 bill at one point when I was younger, and I've kept it ever since. I don't dare spend it. Here's some money, go see a Star Wars. There's multiple of those now, Grandpa. There's so many Star Wars. Okay. Oh, what? Right. 28 point. Probably a Man Whitney U-test. See, I've heard of Man Whitney U-tests before, but I don't really understand them. I feel kind of bad. Like, I pride myself in my ability to know stats, but I know psychology stats. When it comes to economic stats, I'm at a bit of a loss. Don't look at me, okay? I know at least one person in chat is very familiar with economic statistics, and I have cried in his general direction angry tears every time I look at economic statistics. So maybe I should be doing that right now. I can just... Here's my little tear. My tear. It's supposed to be a sweat drop, but I'm treating it as a tear this time. Okay. Anyway, where were we? Right. Okay. 28.1% of participants in the Obama treatment selected fruit instead of candy, in contrast to only 23.5% of participants in the pooled comparison group. So the comparison group is any picture other than the Michelle Obama picture. The difference is statistically significant at the 0.1 level. I have not seen somebody use an alpha of 0.1 in a very long time. And this is from 2018. This isn't a super old paper. I mean, it's older, but it's not like crazy. Have any of you in the chat, if you've read like academic papers, when was the last time you saw an alpha of 0.1 in a paper? Have you ever seen an alpha of 0.1? Because I've only ever seen it once before this. Is that more common in economic stats? Psychology, the standard is 0.05, so the standard alpha level, the standard, like, cutoff, is half of this in psychology. This test would not be significant using the standard alpha level in psychology. There would not be a significant difference in psychology. Yeah, right? Without having Michelle Obama beamed into their life. I'm surprised too. As a kid, I never would have chosen raisins. I got so upset when somebody gave me raisins when I was a kid. I would not tolerate that. Then again, I'm a huge sweet tooth even as an adult. I was eating those disgusting sugar, like soft sugar cookies that they sell just before this stream, if that tells you anything about my sweet tooth. So I would never choose raisins, but I don't know, maybe some kids... That is pretty impressive. But yeah, I was wondering about that, because these 95% confidence intervals overlap. It's also kind of weird to me that they would use 95% confidence intervals if their alpha is 0.1. Wouldn't they use 90% confidence intervals if their alpha was 0.1? Then their confidence intervals should match their conclusion about rejecting or failing to reject the null. But these confidence intervals overlap, so it wouldn't have been significant at 0.05. And this is a pretty decent sample size, though I recognize that, like, this type of analysis doesn't have that much statistical power, so it's harder to reject the null. But what was their sample size again? 500 some? That's not a bad sample size. Okay, so pooled. So this is when, this is all 3 years. Yeah, there's like no effect. Are these also 95% confidence? These are also 95% confidence intervals. So it looks like they only even come close to finding an effect when they average across all 3 years. And even then, depending on your alpha level, it's not a significant effect, which honestly, I wasn't expecting them to find anything going into this. And then I was surprised when they said that they found something, but like based on the standards that I'm used to, they didn't. It's interesting. I wonder what the peer reviewers had to say about this. And like what disciplines the peer reviewers are from. Like, if any of you are, well, I know at least one of you is familiar with economics, but I'm curious, would this make sense? I've seen it, but it is way non-standard. Dead giveaway, the results weren't very good. Yeah, that's very much my perception of this too. Like, I don't trust these results, and it makes me wonder if they changed their alpha level after they knew what the results were, which is bad practice. That would be almost, I don't even know if you could consider that p-hacking at that point. It's just so blatant. We didn't pass our goalpost, so we moved the goalpost. We didn't meet our standards, so we lowered our standards for what counts as meaningful. That makes me sad. This is I'm really enjoying reading this paper, so seeing that makes me sad. I would love to have their data and see if I could, like, if I ran it in a way that makes sense to me as a psychologist, I wonder if I'd get similar results. I mean, it's a binary outcome. At the end of the day, a binary outcome, you're gonna have less power than a continuous outcome. So it's gonna be harder to reject than all. Simply lower standards until we meet them is cool middle management move. Yeah, that seems to be what happened here, if I had to guess. But you know what? I'm willing to not hold it against this paper, if only because I'm enjoying reading it so much. Am I going to be able to take away any new knowledge from it? Not necessarily knowledge about, like, empirical, like, psychological phenomena, but I'm certainly taking away knowledge on how to write an engaging paper away from it, and I think that's wonderful. I think that's delightful. I'm willing to accept that. I think, in terms of, like, overall writing, I think this is my favorite paper of all time. I'm not gonna lie to you. In terms of validity, not so much. But, like, the overall writing, absolute delight. 10 out of 10. Okay, sample selection issues limit the generalizability of the experimental findings. Exactly. For example, this experiment may not allow us to extrapolate the influence of viewing Michelle Obama's face on children's dietary decision making outside of an economic professor's front porch in New Haven on Halloween. This is exactly the kind of writing that has me absolutely enamored with this paper. Oh my gosh. Our generalizability is low. It may not generalize outside of this specific porch on this specific area when the house belongs to this specific person on this specific day of the year. I love how honest they are. And I just love the way they phrase it. Would putting multiple Michelle Obamas on the porch enhance the effect? That's an empirical question. We could test that. Unfortunately, I'm not rich enough to afford a house with a porch, or else I might test that. Oh man, that would be fun though. That would be fun. I would love to do a study like this, but I wonder if my advisor in future Halloweens would be willing to lend me her yard on Halloween to try and replicate something along these lines. That would be so much fun. Anyway, okay. Where was I? Okay. Based on the location of the study, likely socioeconomic status and political leanings of the children's parents make the findings in the study not generalizable beyond trick-or-treaters in the New Haven area. I'm honestly surprised this got published, both due to that alpha of 0.1 and how narrow this is, and how honestly and clearly they're admitting how narrow this is. But I am delighted that it did get published. In particular, this is a strongly Democratic neighborhood, and if children in Democratic households are either more aware of Michelle Obama's campaign or more favorably disposed to it, we would generate an overestimate of the treatment effect of her campaign on the general population of those in the United States. Draw from the bag to see if you got one Michelle Obama side of the portrait or 87 Michelle Obama side. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my god. I can't handle this. I'm dying. I can see the image so clearly in my head. It's basically a shade made out of, like, they've taped together 87 printer paper pages in a giant sheet of tiling repetitive Michelle Obama. Is it, like, all the same picture of Michelle Obama? Or is it, like, every single one of those 87 pictures is a different picture of Michelle Obama, and they're all looking at you? 87 different low-quality printed images from a printer that's continuously and consistently running lower and lower and lower on ink. images of Michelle Obama looking at you from every angle as you decide whether to pick the fruit or the candy. And at that point, you have no data because all of the children are terrified of the strange environment you have thrown them into. Just anybody on those, I think 87 images of anybody staring you down as you were trying to make a decision. I think I would just cry. I would cry, I would curl up in a ball, and I would roll under the table, and I would not move. And they would have to cancel the study that year because they could not run any more participants because I was crying under the table. Small porch on your window and see if Michelle Obama works on the squirrels. I should do that. That would be so much fun. Oh my gosh. Actually, no, I shouldn't do that because I think Mr. Kibbe would take advantage of the situation, and the mortality rate among my participants would be rather high, probably, if I had tested this on squirrels on my windowsill. I love Mr. Kibbe, but he thirsts for squirrels. Their blood, specifically. Okay, sorry. I was reading. Okay. Further, but I do think that this concern about them being more aware of Michelle Obama's campaign, or at least more aware of Michelle Obama in general, at least in 1 year, the control picture was Hillary Clinton. And they're probably also kind of aware of Hillary Clinton, just not associating it with her. So in that case, but yeah, like on an overall basis. Okay, but consider 87 Michelle Obama or 1 Michelle Obama to 87 times size. You know what? I've been wondering this whole time if it's like a small image of Michelle Obama, but I've been kind of honestly assuming that it was a picture of like, you know that one guy who like prints out and then assembles giant standees of like VTubers and stuff that are the size of his house? I was kind of imagining that, but on a smaller scale, like 3 feet tall, maybe like shoulders up image of Michelle Obama created from various printed pictures taped together is kind of what I was picturing. But I would love it if they had a figure in here that was just a picture of their setup. I think that would be very nice. I wonder if maybe I should check the author's web pages after this if they have them to see if they have any images for the study, because I want to see. I also want to see if they had other decorations up. Like, what other decorations were framing this? Was there, like, a skeleton next to Michelle? Do you think that they pasted the picture of Michelle Obama's face on a plastic yard skeleton? I want to know! I want to know what this looked like. The children were shown a picture of Garfield and asked if they would like candy. Or have you seen that thing going around today? Or, like, this week I've seen, like, all children, that trend going around of like all children get 1 scoop of pho, and it's like this pot and it has like a printed image of pho over the top, and then like you can lift the printed image off and there's like candy or something under it. But that reminds me of that. Built Michelle Obama statue using 12-foot skeleton as a frame. Yes, or like a Michelle Obama scarecrow on one side and the Clinton scarecrow on the other side. Oh my goodness. I also can't stop thinking of 1 slurp of pho for child, yes. I also can't stop thinking though of that the children that they excluded from participation because those children just skipped their house, and like they were attributing that, of course, to children skipping their house because they wanted to maximize their candy per hour ratio. And I think that is probably the most likely explanation, but I also think that it's funny to imagine the parents being like, oh my god, it's these guys again with a picture of Michelle Obama and the like 2 tables and the fruit. We're not going to this house. There's something strange going on there. Oh man, I wonder what the break rooms at Yale and stuff like that, or like, you know, the faculty meetings at Yale or whatever were like during this period. I'm imagining just all of these people in like other departments sitting together in a room staring at each other like, which one of you? Do any of you know who did this? The fruit per hour rates? Yeah, you never know. Maybe they saw Michelle Obama and they were like, that could be it. Maybe they saw the image of Michelle Obama and they're like, oh shoot, I should be eating healthy. I need to stop trick-or-treating and go home immediately. We will never know. Missing data, everyone. This could be a selection effect. Maybe they would have found a stronger result, a more robust result, if only the kids who craved fruit weren't running home to get fruit at the sight of Michelle Obama instead of coming to their porch to give them data. The house is giving health classes. No one wants to take a health class on Halloween. We're out of here. We're gone. Okay, right. Furthermore, replication of the study may be hindered by variation across years, some inevitable, and some possible to study further. Hillary Clinton, for example, may generate a different effect before or after the 2016 election because of the changes in opinion, whether favorable or not, generated from the 2016 campaign. So she might no longer be an appropriate control because she has additional baggage associated with her. But I would argue that she kind of always had, though maybe not among young children. So yeah, maybe she didn't have baggage among young children before the campaign, but maybe she would have after because she was all over the media. Furthermore, the method employed for priming individuals each year differed. Yeah, that's not great. But I guess you could also say that that could mean because we changed the methods, the effects might be more robust. But again, like, this is, I guess it's always like, I hate saying trending, but it's always like trending in the same direction. It's always one is higher than the other. But like, you know, it's not, there's not much going on here. Something only even barely shows up only when they pool all 3 years together. And that's not, like, by standard levels of is this statistically different or is it just sampling error? We wouldn't even consider it that. But the fact that they did get, like, the means in the same direction 3 years in a row, it's entirely possible that's a coincidence. There's still a pretty high probability that that's a coincidence, and you can see those error bars are still pretty big, but, like, I don't know. Maybe there's something here, maybe there's not. I don't think you'd be able to replicate this now because Michelle Obama has, for the most part, stayed out of the limelight for the past while. Like, she's made some public appearances, but she's no longer nearly as prominent. And even then, I feel like her campaign to improve health and lunches has largely fallen out of public consciousness. I didn't even really remember it until I was looking at this paper. In addition, we conducted the experiment on 3 Halloweens at the same location. Repeat participation in memory of prior participation was possible. Yeah, that makes sense. So, like, some of these participants had probably participated in the study before, so that might have changed how they reacted in subsequent years. This, too, may limit the generalizability of our pooled findings to settings outside of a series of repeated randomized control trials on economic professors. I love how they keep emphasizing this part. Like, I mean, it is important to remind us of it, but at this point, it also feels like comedy. I mean, it's been comedy to me the entire time, but it no longer just feels like a disclaimer. It's just, like, highlighting the absolute absurdity of it all, and I love it. I love it so much. It makes me so happy. I wasn't sure if I was like, is spending Halloween night alone in my room? I guess I'm not alone. I have you, chat. Thank you for being here. I'm honored, and I'm so happy that you're here. I was like, is this really going to be a fun activity? I'm having the time of my life. I am absolutely delighted. Oh my gosh. Okay. Furthermore, we ran the experiment on a day where candy is readily available. The influence of children's dietary preference for fruit instead of candy may differ from other days of the year. For instance, perhaps children are more willing to choose fruit since it is unique for the holiday, or children are less willing to choose fruit because they're in the influence of sugar consumption. We're all alone together. Let's be alone together. We can stay young for forever. Let's be alone together. We'll stay young forever. Sing it from the top of your lungs. Anyway, okay, wait. You know, I was actually discussing this earlier with some of my students and then some of the faculty. A student gave me cookies, like homemade cookies, and I was so happy. And then I was like, oh man, I already had a lot of junk food today. I've already eaten 2 sugar cookies. I have a bag of candy waiting for me at home. Another faculty member gave me candy. You just gave me these cookies. I'm gonna eat cookies when I get home too, and probably more candy when I get home. This is a lot. And then we all kind of collectively decided that calories don't count and healthy eating doesn't count on Halloween. So, like, even if they might choose the fruit on a normal day, maybe they're like, it's Halloween. Halloween's all about candy. What's the point? I'm imagining them running the experiment on non-Halloween day, waiting on their porch for someone to come collect their fruit, or just calling out to passersby, "Hey, you there! You there! Come closer! Would you like candy or raisins?" That's so funny. I feel like Halloween's the only day you can give strangers candy and it not be an instant cause for, like, police concern. Okay, right, furthermore, okay, yeah. Disaggregation of data. So here is their data table. Mean, standard error. I still don't really understand this mean. So is this the proportion of... This must be the proportion of fruits to chocolate. No, this is fruits to overall decision. So the proportion of children who chose the fruit to candy overall, I think, maybe something like that. Did you drop this gold candy or the silver fruit? Did you drop this? You can have it if you want it. You aren't alone. There's always us voices in your head. Oh my gosh, that's mildly terrifying. I mean, it's true, but it's frightening. Mean is when you aren't nice. This mean is being mean to me. I feel like this mean is being very mean to me because I do not understand this mean, and therefore I cannot rationalize its behavior. Maybe if I knew what these things were. But I'm assuming because we know that they claim to have found that children were more likely to choose the fruit, no, but that... I'm so confused. I don't know how to interpret this. That makes me sad. Do we have anything else? Oh, that was it. We thank all these people for assistance running field experiments. They had a lot of undergrads over at their house on Halloween, it sounds like, and probably grad students. We thank for useful comments. We thank... I was really hoping they'd have another silly thing in here, like we thank all the children or something like that, or we thank this website where we got the picture of Michelle Obama, or we thank blah 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 for the... I don't know. I was hoping it would be something. Well, either way, that's the paper. That's the paper. That was a fun read. That was a fun read. I don't know if I've learned anything about psychology from it. I think I have learned how to write a better paper from it, or at least write a more entertaining paper. And even if I had learned nothing, it made me smile and laugh more than any paper that I've ever read ever has, including ones that were intended to be satirical. So that was not time wasted as far as I'm concerned. I was absolutely delighted with that. And I hope that you enjoyed it too. I really do. No more research must be done. Exactly. We must go. It looks like Karlan is the corresponding author, so maybe I will have to... I do bet it was Karlan's porch. Actually, you know what? I don't need to wait until after the stream. Dean Karlan. I'm betting this guy used to work at Yale, and then he moved to Kellogg. Okay. And it was his porch, probably, because... Okay, so... Let's just look at his CV. Let's look at his CV. Dr. Karlan, if you ever see this stream, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was cited in two. I tried to figure out what papers earlier, but Plos wasn't telling me. Yeah, so he was at Yale. He was at Yale during the time. So this must have been Dr. Karlan's front porch. It was Dr. Karlan's front porch. There you go. And he's at Northwestern. Cool. I might have to contact Dr. Karlan at some point. Okay. Will you tell me who has cited this? Cited. Cited by two. Let's see who cited this. Blind trust, blind skepticism, liberals and conservatives' responses to academic research. I want to see how these things cited it. Fruits, vegetables, and health, a comprehensive narrative, umbrella view, and science of replication. I'm just gonna look real fast. Kind of. Okay. Karlan. Okay, here we go. This one cited it in the case, this study is limited since it did not, a recent randomized controlled trial, More likely, however, the study's limited since it did not allow for extrapolation of why this affected the decision-making. Other factors, such as political leaning of the children, non-generalizable. Yeah, they don't even mention that, like, their alpha level was 0.1. They just treated it, this effect was taken for... I wonder if they didn't notice that. I mean, I feel like a lot of people don't actually pay attention to the numbers. And then this one. Oh, yeah, I can't access this article. So I can't check how it was cited. That's a bummer. Oh well. Oh well. Oh well, that's okay. That's okay. Maybe when I get back to Point Pleasant University, where I work, maybe then I can find a way to access it through the library or some sort of database, and I can see, just for the sake of my own curiosity. Here are the tags that they used. Yeah, well, that was a fun paper. Reader comments. There's a comments section? Did any readers leave any comments? There's no comments! I kind of want to write a comment. I don't know if I've ever seen this, but I want to write a comment of like, thank you, that was an absolute delight. I can probably just send that to the authors directly, rather than leaving a public comment. Media coverage. I'm curious about that. Was there any media coverage? I mean, there's a lot of shares. Oh, yep. Ooh, spooky science. Was black cat bias and other Halloween oddities. Go away. Ugh. Well, anyway, I should probably, you know what time it is? The time has come that we are past a certain time of night when Mr. Kibbe requires his sustenance. So I should probably end the stream. I probably should end the stream so that I can provide Mr. Kibbe the sustenance he requires to keep causing trouble. Yeah. But thank you all for coming. Yeah, Mr. Kibbe, he needs his food. He needs his munchings. And I need to play some Minecraft. Or actually, yeah, I'm gonna watch some spooky stuff after this, because it's Halloween, and that's what you should do on Halloween. Like, if I don't have any plans outside of home on Halloween, I watch spooky stuff and I eat candy. So I think that's what I'm gonna do after this, after, of course, feeding Mr. Kibbe. You are right, I don't have enough of a sense of urgency about this. We must give him sustenance immediately. See if he'll eat a cat treat or his regular He is on a doctor diet, so clearly. Oh, I need to. I'll pull up a picture of Michelle Obama on my phone and show it to him, and then offer him candy or like a cat treat and some of his normal kibble, and see what he goes for. Let's see if we can replicate this with sample size of n equals 1. One cat. Yeah, right, Mr. Kibbe. He's a good boy. I love you. You're a good boy. Okay, right. All right. I am very strong and powerful and intimidating and cool. All right. Thank you all for coming to my stream today. It was much appreciated. I had a lot of fun. I hope that you had fun as well. I don't know if we learned much about psychology, given that I personally wouldn't say that they should have rejected the null here, given how high they raised their alpha level, and they do acknowledge the lack of generalizability, but I certainly learned something about writing an engaging paper, and I certainly had a great time. Yeah, thank you for coming. I'm really glad that I was able to do this. Happy Halloween, everyone. I hope that you have a great Halloween. If you are into eating candy and up for eating candy, I hope that you get something good to eat. If you're not, if you like spooky things, please enjoy a spooky thing for me. Or just generally get some rest. I hope that you can find some time to take care of yourselves. All right. Bye, everyone, and I'll see you next class.